Welcome to another edition of the Buffoons Sports Talk. I'm your host today, Troy Alexander. With me, Jake Hoffman and Alex Campbell. Back in the saddle. How long has it been? Like
4 weeks?
Yeah, it's been about 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, we took a little break there at the end of 2019, which you can't do if you're trying to make your podcast big, but we did it, but we're ready to get back in 2020 and really crush it. So
I agree. Give us a like and a subscribe if you want daily content for sports talks. We're going to have different channels on here for different sports. There'll be a basketball channel you can click on if you're a basketball fan. If you're a casual fan, you can just listen to the regular podcast. But we'll have breakdowns for different sports on our YouTube, Spotify, everything like that. So
yeah, and I think the time off gave us a little bit of time to really reflect on how to make the podcast better, how to provide great content, and how to structure it the best. So we're really excited to make this year really great. So
right. I agree on all those things, and my apologies to the listeners. It's been a crazy 2019, the end of it, with holidays and babies and families and just life in general. So we will be getting back to providing content weekly, and I host the Buzzer Beater on the Buffoon Sports Talk Network. So definitely listen to that on Spotify and iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. But enough intro slander. Today we're going to start the show off with talking about the NFL playoffs that are happening today. And actually right now, it's the Texans and
Bills,
sorry, got a brain fart there, followed by the Patriots and Titans.
do a couple predictions here for the playoffs.
We'll start with predictions, and then unfortunately have to talk about the Patriots because they're part of the playoffs. But guys, thoughts, predictions on the game going on right now?
Well, I mean, I think, this is what I predicted. I mean, I predicted the Bills winning this game, but that, the chance that the Texans had, they're at home, and they've got, these two guys, Deshaun Watson.
And he just fumbled. Josh Allen just fumbled.
Oh, wow. They could still be in this game. That's insane. But you've got these three great guys on the Texans, right? You got J.J. Watt, you got DeAndre Hopkins, and you got Deshaun Watson, who can carry you to some wins because of just how talented they are. So they've got a shot. But then you got the Titans and the Patriots, and I don't know. Some people think that dynasty's over, which I'd love to kind of hear your guys' opinions. I think it's over, but I don't think they lose to the Titans.
Well, an interesting stat, I mean, as far as the Patriots, is they've never won a Super Bowl without a first-round bye. So will that come into effect? It might. For me, it's hard to think you can put 40, 41, whatever year old Tom Brady is through.
I think 42. 3
playoff games before the Super Bowl. And you made the point, Jake, before we went on air talking about this, that, more often than not, Bill Belichick gets to sit at home and watch these games and scheme for these teams. Now he's playing the first week of the playoffs, so he doesn't have that opportunity to scout the team he's going to be playing against. So does that come into effect? I think it does. Just because of how great Belichick is, you still can't discount those factors.
Well, have you ever...
My bad.
Just choking everywhere today.
Give me a break. I have an ear infection.
But, I mean, have you ever seen... I don't know exactly what it is off the top of my head, so I probably should have known this, but Bill Belichick's record coming off a bye. All great coaches, I think... I mean, a lot of times when you measure a lot of, great successful coaches, you measure their success coming off a bye week with all that time to prepare for other teams and stuff. But him coming off a bye is over a 90-something% win percentage. And you give him the playoffs, you give him 2 weeks to prepare for a team with that much intensity, they're not going to lose. So
I agree with that. And to answer the question, I personally I put my bet in the Bills. I just think they're a more well-rounded team than the Texans are. So far, we were really correct coming right out of the half. It was 16-0, but it seems like the Texans are kind of crawling back in it, 16-8, driving the ball. But I still stand by my pick of the Bills winning this game. And then the Patriots game, I think Tennessee's good enough to beat them, but there's no way in hell I'd ever put my money on them winning because, let's be realistic, the Patriots are they're so experienced in the playoffs, and that really comes into it because the only way the Titans win, in my opinion, is if Derrick Henry has 200 rushing yards.
I agree with that.
You just have to have a game for the books.
I mean, Ryan Tannehill is not going to throw on that defense, not in New England, not in the playoffs.
No, not happening. So that's my thought process on it. You got to go Patriots.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what do you guys feel about the... I know we briefly went over for a few seconds, but the Texans, what about that game? What do you guys think about that? Do you think the Texans are able to come back? They're down by 8 with 14 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Do you think they can make it?
Now we're under 12 minutes here.
Oh, I'm sorry, 12 minutes?
But, I mean, they're driving. They're in the red zone now.
Well, like I just said, but Troy wasn't listening to me, but I said that I still stand by my predictions. I think the Bills are still going to pull it out.
Troy's got an ear infection, everybody, so you'll have to give him a little bit of slack if he asks.
Agreed.
Thanks,
a couple
Jake.
of times what we say, just
Agreed.
because.
Actually, I have 2 ear infections, one on my eardrum as well, so I literally can't hear anything unless you yell at me.
He's essentially deaf.
For now.
I mean that in the most sensitive way, too, to all you deaf listeners out there.
Yeah, I don't want to piss anybody off.
Saw what I did there, right?
That's
That's fucked up.
With those games out of the way, let's go to tomorrow's games.
Yeah.
The Saints and Vikings.
we got early games tomorrow.
Yeah, it starts at 11.
Yeah, 11:05.
Yeah.
And the
Arizona
Seahawks
time.
and the Eagles. Now, I actually really want to talk about the Eagles and Seahawks game because
I think we all agree the Saints and Vikings is going to the Saints.
I have the Saints.
I've got Saints for sure.
That's the only game that I think will be decided by more than 10 points.
Yeah, Saints are legit for sure. For me, the most exciting game this weekend is the Eagles and Seahawks game. I think, now someone will have to correct me here, but I know the Eagles are coming off. They ended the regular season with some wins.
Yeah, I think 3 or 4 straight.
Okay, so
Big ones, too, against the Cowboys.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, you're going into the playoffs hot, and history has shown when you're a hot team in the NFL coming into the playoffs, you normally have success. I mean, look at the Giants in 2007, 2012. Got really hot, and then they ended up winning the Super Bowl both times. I'm not saying that's going to happen.
Well, that's what the Eagles did just a couple of years ago.
That's true.
And they did really well in the playoffs last season, I believe it was. They won a game. They really competed with the Bears last season. That's who it was. I remember watching that game. It was a really good game. They didn't beat them, but they competed with them really hard to the very end. And if you remember this year, the frickin' Eagles stomped the Packers.
Yeah.
They stomped them.
A couple teams did, though. The losses that the Packers had, I believe they got smashed because the Chargers smashed them.
Okay, correct. I was watching this. I forget who was saying this the other day on ESPN, but they were saying that it was the ugliest. I think it was Colin Cowherd that said it on Fox Sports. The ugliest 13-3 season you've ever seen from a team.
Well, I don't know because some of their wins they dominated, but
I mean, 13-3 is still 13-3.
Yeah.
You can win the Super Bowl.
yeah. And sometimes I'd rather just have a game where you get blown out.
Just to humble you.
Well, sometimes
it can happen.
Well, yeah, it humbles you, and it also, when you're getting smashed, usually you take your starters out. You're getting smashed, so it's you don't want to get hurt, so you take them out, and you just kind of take the loss.
Well,
Whereas
also
there's games where fools they're fighting till the last second, and they lose the game still. A loss is a loss. Don't matter if you lose by 40 or 3, you still lost, and you get banged up a little more.
I also like seeing a contender get smashed and see how they respond next game because that's how you can really tell if a team is a contender or a pretender.
Yeah,
but
I like that.
But the Eagles are an interesting team. I still want to say my gut says the Seahawks will win, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Eagles were to win the game. But for me, that's the most exciting game this weekend.
That's how I feel too. I've got the Seattle Seahawks just because of Pete Carroll's experience and Russell Wilson. And I don't care what you say. I think they also brought in Marshawn Lynch, not really to run the ball 20 times. It also, believe me, he rubs off in the locker room.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, you need locker room guys for sure.
Believe me.
People love that guy.
And when Marshawn's on the field with you, especially on the Seattle Seahawks, they love that dude.
It's I can't stand Rajon Rondo, but he's a great locker room guy, and politics show that he'll play. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah. But I've got, like I said, I've got the Seahawks. I just think Russell Wilson's just that veteran guy now. He plays better at the end of the seasons. And he's shown that he can play, other than one real play in the Super Bowl one year, he shows that he does well in the playoffs. He's always in the game. You never can count him out.
Yeah, but Chris Carson's injury plays a factor too, though.
Sure. It really does.
They lose the running game. I think when you look at it, what's the strength of the Eagles' defense? It's their front four.
Yeah.
And what's the way that you beat the Seahawks? You got to stop their running game, and you got to be able to get to Russell Wilson with 4 so that you can leave a linebacker to spy him.
Yeah, but come fourth quarter when those guys are tired from rushing all game 4, Russell Wilson starts to pick you apart.
They got to play in Philly on the road.
Now, is Zach Ertz playing? Have we heard?
We haven't heard.
That's the thing. Like,
We haven't
okay,
heard.
That's humongous.
if Ertz is playing with Carson's injury, like I said, man, it makes things interesting.
He's cleared to play.
Yeah. I've got the Eagles in this game. That's
Okay.
who I'm taking.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's
that's fair.
fair. No, like I agree with what Troy said.
Yeah.
I personally have the Seahawks, but if the Eagles win, this is a game I don't bet on. This
Yeah.
is a game that I'm like, no, I don't bet because I could see both teams winning.
This to me was just like the Bills and Texans. I thought this was going to be a great game.
But in my opinion, I feel like this is the one year where you're like,
But
is Carson Wentz worth it? Because we're going to see tonight tomorrow, sorry.
most importantly, I just want to talk about what I really, really hope to see. I've been hoping to see it for the last 5 or 6 seasons, and that's a Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers matchup in the playoffs. I'm not even fans of either quarterbacks or teams, but when you think about how many times we got to see Tom Brady and Peyton Manning face off 5 times in the playoffs, 4 in AFC championship games. We haven't gotten to see those type of great quarterback matchups since, since Steve Young and Troy Aikman. I mean,
That's BS. Tomorrow morning, we get to see Kirk Cousins play Drew Brees.
Shut up.
Woo!
But and personally, I really hope we get to see a Chiefs-Packers Super Bowl. That's what I really want to.
That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome, guys. Let's just pray we don't have to watch the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl again.
I think it's over this year. I think the dynasty's done, guys. I think Gronk played a huge factor in that offense. Really, anytime they needed a bailout situation, what is it? Third down, send Gronk up the seam and throw it high.
Well, I've got a question for Jake. If the Bills win and the Patriots win, who plays the Chiefs and who plays the Ravens?
So if the Patriots win, just like if the Saints win, they no matter what play the 2 seed.
Okay, and
so the Chiefs would play if the Patriots win, which I think they do, they play the Chiefs.
Okay.
So we get a rematch of last year's AFC Championship game. I think the Chiefs get to be the team.
It's at home finally.
In Kansas City, I think and if you remember, if Tom Brady, they should have lost that game. Tom Brady threw his 3rd interception on one of the last plays of the game, but D Ford was offsides by 0.02 of a second, by the slightest inch. And if he's not offsides, that's an interception and the Chiefs win the game.
Well, I just feel like it's not going to be an easy pass because whether the Bills or the Texans win, they're going to go into the Ravens' house and get stomped. In my opinion, I don't care which one goes in there.
I think the Chiefs beat the Ravens.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying between the winner of the Bills and Texans.
I thought you meant any team in the AFC. My bad.
No, I'm saying the Bills and Texans. Whichever team wins. So the Patriots, if they do go to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to beat the Chiefs and the Ravens, which is no easy feat, and they don't get a home game.
Well, I want to be that guy that says that the Patriots do lose. I want to be on record saying, thank God Josh Gordon smoked a blunt. But anyway.
And that AB continued his fucking antics.
My God.
And that Rob Gronkowski retired.
Yeah, there's so many.
If those 3 pieces were still there, we're looking at one of the greatest teams ever assembled.
Yeah.
So.
The greatest, in my opinion.
When you look at that defense this year, too, if they literally still had Julian Edelman and James White, plus they had Antonio Brown
and
Josh Gordon plus Gronk at tight end,
it'd be unstoppable. That's an undefeated season.
Yeah.
With a Super Bowl win.
Well, speaking of all these teams, we've been talking about MVP candidates as far as Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson. How do we feel about segueing into some MVP candidates in another sport?
Yeah, let's move to the NBA. All right.
So Jake and I were having some basketball conversations, and I'd say we're a quarter into the season at this point. We're over 30 games, and it's about that time. Let's throw out our MVP candidates. I mean, I'll be the first to start if that's cool with everybody. But I personally have Giannis repeating as MVP. The Bucks are on pace to win 70 games this year. Will they win 70 games? I don't know. Probably not. But Giannis has improved on his MVP season from last year. He's averaging like 3 more points. He's averaging more rebounds. He's a better shooter. And the guy will be the face of the NBA eventually if he isn't already. And I've got Giannis as the MVP. As far as second or third, I don't really care too much about that. Gun to my head, I guess I would say LeBron James is probably second. And third, I'd probably give it to James Harden. But Giannis is just so dominant, man. The guy is only going to get better, which is crazy. And I think, is the most dominant specimen physically we've seen since prime LeBron. So I've got Giannis.
I'm going to probably have to agree with that because he's also on the best team in the league right now.
They probably are the best team in the league.
I'm just going off of pure record right now. They're the best team in the whole NBA. And I hate James Harden with a passion. But
you're not the only one.
I've got his stats in front of me, and he's averaging 38.4 points a game. If he averages over 37 this year, it's going to be really hard not even to give it to him. I mean, he's got 7.6 assists per game. So it's not like he's only scoring. He's still getting assists.
Well, Harden had the 7th highest points per game in a season last year in NBA history.
And he's got 6 rebounds a game.
Yeah. I mean, his usage rate is through the roof. Harden's usage rate is like through the roof. But how do you not give it to Giannis? Like, he's so good. Like,
he's a freak. But you also have LeBron James. I just think it is. I wouldn't say it's early to be talking about this, but a lot can change really quick.
Yeah, I think Luka Doncic is also in the conversation too.
He is in the conversation. The problem is his in the NBA. Your team needs to be successful, and although the Mavs are successful, I don't think. We'll see if that's what I'm saying. If he continues to do this the rest of the season, you'll have a case. They make the playoffs.
Here's the thing. Right now, I think there's a huge mush between a lot of the teams in the West, where I think the Lakers and Clippers end up as the 1 and 2 seeds.
Luka's almost averaging a triple double.
I don't think the Clippers are a top 2 seed, but
you think the Nuggets?
I think it'll be between the Lakers and the Nuggets.
Okay, but I think those are the top 3 seeds. But I think seeds 3 through 6. I mean, that's kind of where it gets that's where it kind of gets jumbled between the Rockets, the Mavs, the Jazz. I think any of those teams could wind up 4 through 6. I mean, if the Mavs were to end as the 4th seed, I mean, you're talking a different story.
I mean, yes, but historically, like, MVPs have usually been 1 or 2 seeds in the playoffs, outside of Russell Westbrook like 4 years ago, but he was the first player since Oscar to average a triple-double, which is why he won MVP.
But look at what Luka is averaging, very similar numbers almost, with a better shooting percentage.
Well, I'm looking at a list of the top 10 right now, probably that are in the MVP race, and there's only 3 guys on there that are averaging a double-double.
Yeah, LeBron's one of them.
LeBron's one, Giannis is the other, and Joel Embiid is the other.
Yeah. Now, like, it's I don't know, man. Like,
sorry, Rudy Gobert is also, but he's averaging 14.9 points a game, he's just not in the.
I mean, he's in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, but
right,
I think it'll be between him and Anthony Davis.
But he's the number 10th on their list.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, I mean, LeBron's just turned 35. He's leading the league in assists. He's top 5 in minutes. Like, it's still it's still insane that we're having the conversation of LeBron being the best player in the league at year 17 and being 35 years old.
No, it's impressive. He's got 11 assists per game, and he's got 7.7 rebounds a game, and he's averaging 25.1 points a game.
Yeah, and
so it's just a solid season all around. He's probably got
#washed king.
Yeah, and if you just look at the way he can defend still and the way he can take the game over, those stats are also, he's got to share the ball with Anthony Davis. Giannis has who else to really share the ball with?
Yeah, I mean, Giannis.
I mean, I get it, though. The system runs through Giannis.
Yeah, where does it run in Houston?
Dude, Harden.
James Harden. And in LA right now, they're like running it through AD. LeBron's just getting his points where he can get them, kind of thing. Like when the lane opens up, he'll take advantage of it. When there's a good three, he'll take it. Like, but Anthony Davis is really like taking a lot of the offense into his hands.
Yeah, and I would agree. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jake. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think I think Giannis ends up winning MVP, but I think Luka ends up number 2, and I think Luka has a shot to take it if he continues to improve and has a really great second half of the season after the All-Star break. I could see him taking it.
Do you guys want to hear an impressive stat right now?
Yeah.
Giannis is only playing 31 minutes a game. And Harden's playing 37.6.
Yeah. Harden's leading the league in minutes.
So over 7.5 minutes, he's playing more every single game than Giannis.
This will be that's perfect to kind of transition into our next.
He's averaging 13 rebounds a game.
And
that's pretty
before
nuts.
we transition, Jake, I just want to say I do not think Luka will be top 2 in MVP voting, but I will say that Doncic will win multiple MVPs eventually.
He will.
And the Mavs will be contenders for the next 5-10 years if they're able to stay healthy and stay together.
Well, he's that good too. And if you look at what happened with Dirk, he fell in love with Mark Cuban. He fell in love with the Mavs. Luka's going to be the same. He came over from overseas. You know, Mark Cuban already knows that area where he's got a foreign player. He knows what the guy needs.
Got Porzingis.
Yeah, and Porzingis too.
Real quick, before we segue over, I just want to bring up David Stern real quick, because since we're talking about foreign players, and David Stern's passing a few days back, prayers out to his family. I don't think David Stern was known for expanding the league. Now in today's NBA, 25% of the league is foreign born.
And you can thank that to him.
That's pretty cool.
And David Stern expanded the league into that. You think of some of the top players in the league now, Luka Doncic and Giannis Antetokounmpo, all foreign players.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Dirk Nowitzki, Hakeem Olajuwon, all of these guys.
And we're even seeing more talent come in from overseas.
Yeah, it's just
China and China loves their basketball.
Joel Embiid, right?
Huh?
Joel Embiid?
Yeah, Joel Embiid. Karl Anthony Towns is from the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
Some of the best players in the league are foreign born, so it's just kind of cool to see how the NBA's expanded over the years.
It is cool. And baseball's been doing that for a long time. There's been Dominican players that have been there a long time, and then you see Puerto Ricans, and then now you're seeing Cubans because they opened it up. So it's cool. It is cool to see in basketball, seeing other foreign players get to come in, and you get to see. Now, I still think they might take over. You never know. They might just breed better basketball style players. I mean, you're seeing it in the UFC too. You've got Francis Ngannou, who comes from the Caribbean, and he's just a dude that shoveled dirt all his life. And he's just this massive dude that just comes in and just knocks people's heads off.
Wasn't McGregor I thought McGregor was homeless at one point, and he's from.
He was basically homeless, and then he ended up just staying with his girlfriend, and she paid all the bills and everything while he trained all the time, and that was all he did. And yeah, he's from Ireland, so yeah, it's great to see these sports where they're worldwide, where you have an opportunity if you're good enough. And baseball's been doing that with Japan for quite some time too. The best of the best in Japan, they come over here, and it's cool to see that. Obviously, in baseball, if we played all the Americans, the best American players against the Japanese, we'd win.
Well, they do that. They have we don't always.
We don't put our best players on the team because you have to sign up for it.
I know. You don't always have Mike Trout.
It's our 15th best that's playing at that. And we get a lot of guys that are born here, but they'll play for the Dominican because their parents are from there or something Yeah.
Well, okay, so Jake, you wanted to segue over before. What did you want to go into? Since we're talking about James Harden, I think I know what you wanted.
This is going to kind of segue into a few different topics here. But we felt it was best to kind of save this for the podcast, and I think it's all under the same umbrella here.
Hold on. It is 19-16.
I know Carlos Hyde just scored a touchdown, and they got another 2-point conversion.
All right. So sorry to interrupt there, but I had to.
Yeah, Texans are back up, so we'll see if Josh Allen can lead them to victory here with under 5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, we'll see.
So Troy and I have been having some interesting debates because we were talking about. It all started with me saying that Luka Doncic is better in his second season than LeBron James was. And I do think Luka has a more complete game, and I think Troy would agree with that he's got a more complete game at 20 than LeBron did at 20. I'm not saying he's better, and I think the eye test is important. But I was just honestly trolling at that point. This was on Christmas Day in the group text that we were doing, right? But this kind of led to me taking it back and saying, I was just honestly joking. And most importantly, forget the stats and all that. I think that the stats are inflated because the defenses are watered down and soft nowadays and etc. So my whole point here is that I don't think that what James Harden, like a lot of people right now think James Harden is the second best offensive player of all time. I don't think he is. I think Kobe Bryant is still a better offensive player than James Harden. And he can score in more ways. And I honestly think that the watered-down defenses has what's changed the NBA today. And I think it's easier to score now than it's ever been because you can't touch a guy. And when you can't touch a guy, that gives the advantage to a perimeter player or a good shooter. Like, it's insane. And so, obviously, you're going to see an increase in this.
I mean, I see where you're coming from on that because... I mean, back in the day, they weren't even calling it a foul when you jumped for a shot. You could put your foot right where they're going to land. And it was just a lot harder of a time to play, I feel like. But I do think you worded it wrong because I don't know if the defenses are necessarily watered down or if it's a combination of things with the referees calling more penalties.
Right, and that's what I mean.
Hold on. So the league's changed where now you're more inclined to shoot way more threes because the way the percentages work, back in the day, you used to take the shot clock down to 1 second a lot more than you do nowadays. It's how many times can I actually make an attempt to shoot a decent shot? I just feel like the defenses are elite still, but the league caters towards the offenses, so it is easier to get more points.
I think it's easier to score than ever before, and I also think that you have to consider the wear and tear. I mean, it's this simple, that over the course of 40 minutes and over the course of 82 games, if you've got somebody...
minutes.
Right, but I'm just saying most players are not playing 48 minutes a night,
Most players play 36 minutes, but okay, go on.
But yeah, over the course of 40 minutes, and over 82 games a season, the physicality that you're going to encounter on defense is not going to wear you down as much. So you're going to have more left in the tank, too. That's the other piece of this, too. And because, like you just said, the game has changed to where it's more threes, because I get it. It analytically makes sense. You only have to shoot 40% of your threes to score the same amount of points as you have to do shooting 60% and hitting your twos. So I get it. It's better, and plenty of players can hit 40% from three. Not many can shoot 60% from two, though. So I get it. It's tough, and it makes sense to go that route. But when you've got the rules how it is today, where you can't hand check, you can't do anything, it makes it easier to conserve all of your energy late in games, which again helps you score easier as opposed to if you're gassed and tired. And have you guys ever played, try shooting a basketball after you work out your legs or your shoulders? If your calves are fatigued or if your shoulders are fatigued, it's going to completely change everything about your shot.
If you're not in phenomenal shape, basketball is so hard.
I'm not even talking shape. Even if you're in great shape, if you fatigue a certain muscle like your shoulder or your leg because someone just keeps pounding on it, or it gets hurt for whatever reason because of a weird fall or just whatever, it's going to impact all of your mechanics and your shot completely.
Well, can I ask you a question really quick, Troy?
Yeah.
So a lot of the times when I would have Kobe debates with people and I'd be sticking up for him, they'd be like, well, he shoots the ball 25 times a game. Well, I'm looking at it right now, and there was one season where he shot it 27.2 times a game. which, okay, that was his 05-06 year, and he was averaging like a ton of points. The only other season other than that, he's around the same amount of field goal attempts as James Harden. So I feel like it's...
But back then, teams took 10 less attempts per game than they do now, because they play at a higher rate now.
But
what's your question?
I just feel like Kobe almost paved the way where it's like okay to shoot the ball 25 times a game. So now you've got all these guys that are shooting the ball 25 times a game, and they might even be a little more effective than Kobe because he was taking hard fadeaways, whatever it might be. And a lot of these guys are just taking, the easiest shot they can, and they're making a lot more threes because, let's be real, technique has gotten better, things have gotten better. It just happens with the sport. Once you start realizing the three's the way to go, that's what you're practicing in the gym more. So I just feel like, do you think the league nowadays, do you think it's okay to shoot the ball 23 times a game if you're an elite scorer? Because it wasn't accepted back then. People shot the ball 23 times.
I want to say yes, because you see in preseason rookies shooting 15 times a game. And back then, when Kobe's prime, you would get a death stare from your coach if a rookie shot. If you're a rookie and you shot 15 times in a preseason game, you would get a death stare from your coach because rookies should not be shooting 15 times. But nowadays, that's acceptable.
Yeah.
So I want to say yes to answer your question, but I'm not saying I really so much disagree with the fact that defenses are a bit more watered down nowadays. I would say the thing that really pisses me off when it comes to that is how people say, well, defenses aren't as good as they were back then. And then I say, okay, what's back then? 90s. Oh, so you're telling me during the Jordan Pippen era? Well, yeah, defenses were just allowed to do so much more back then. So then I asked the person, tell me, what were some of the best defenses back in the day? How many? The Bulls were pretty good. Who else? They never name anyone else outside of the Bulls.
We got the Pistons.
Because you have Pippen, Jordan, Dennis Rodman on your team. But they didn't say 80s, where even and you look at historically at the NBA, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, there were only 3 legit defenses.
Well, here's the real question. Was that even defense back then? Because I saw many times back in the 80s on film where they literally just clotheslined him. It's not even defense. It's literally, and you don't even get called a foul.
Well, and that's why I think I misspoke. I shouldn't have said it's watered down. I should have said
more.
It's easy, just like it is in the NFL. I think it's easier to get yards and score in the NFL than it has ever been, and I think it's easier to get points and score in the NBA than it's ever been.
Look, here's the thing. Another thing David Stern did, speaking of David Stern, is he came up with the plan to market superstars in the NBA. That is how he is going to market the NBA. Back in the 80s, when it was Celtics, Lakers 3-4 times, however many times it was, people looked at it as Bird versus Magic. They did not look at it as Lakers versus Celtics. It was Bird versus Magic. That is how the NBA still is to this day. Does the NBA cater to offensive players? Yes. That means that defenses aren't going to have as much leeway on these dynamic offensive players, a.k.a. Steph Curry, who changed the game 6 years ago. James Harden's only evolutionized Steph Curry's game today. Same thing with all these other offensive players. Yes, defenses aren't going to get as recognized in all these breaks as these great offensive players because superstars are marketed in the NBA. And I'm not saying it's all because of that, but I just hate when people say defenses were better in the 90s. When I look at defenses today, I can name 4 elite defenses at the top of my head right now. And the Sixers, as inconsistent as they are one of the best defenses I have ever seen put together. Last year, the Toronto Raptors in the playoffs had the second best playoff defense of all time behind the 04 Pistons that won the championship that year. Their point differential from the regular season and the playoffs on defense was second all time behind the Pistons. So I don't like when I hear defenses are more watered down today. To me, that doesn't clarify really how the NBA is.
Well,
Right, but would you agree that it is easier to score today than it's ever been before?
I would say that because how advanced training is, there are better offensive players than there were 30 years ago.
Well, they also get away with double dribbles a lot more, travels a lot more.
That's true.
Certain pick and rolls type situations. They just get away with different things. But the game changes, and that's why...
That is why it does change, because in 90s, hey, guess what? Like you said, you could clothesline people. There's that classic Boston Celtics and Los Angeles Lakers series where freaking Kevin McHale clotheslines Kurt Rambis on the court, and it's called the common foul. There's constant hand checking. You could guard guys with two hands in the 90s.
Yeah.
Rules change, leagues change.
They do, and it's just like the NFL. If you threw a 70-yard pass and there was pass interference back in the day, there's a 15-yard penalty.
Oh, there's a lot of Super Bowl.
You know what I'm saying? Like nowadays, you throw that.
You go back and watch a lot of. So every year during the Super Bowl, they always replay all the other Super Bowls before it. You know, if you got NFL Network, and man, if you watch those other Super Bowls and you watch all the other plays, I mean, I've watched them all by now. I love that every year. It's what I look forward to. Boy, there's a lot of plays that you'd be like, that would have been called back today. That would have been called back. That changes your whole. That changes everything, and it doesn't even take into account all the playoff games before that. But
Yeah.
but I get your point. And I shouldn't have said that they were watered down as much as I should say if you take any player from the 90s or the early 2000s that scored really well, because when did they introduce the hand checking rule? Was that 05, 04, 03?
It was like I don't know.
It was early to mid 2000s, right? So if you were to take any of those players, like if Kobe Bryant was coming out today, do you not think that he would put up better numbers than James Harden?
I don't know, because I honestly think James Harden's a better scorer. You can put me on record saying that.
Okay, so now let's transition. Are we cool to transition into Kobe and LeBron now while we're still on this?
Oh man, are we gonna do that?
Yeah,
I mean,
I think we do.
I feel like we've done it before on the podcast too.
But okay, let's not spend too much time on it. But what do we want to talk about?
Here's my thing.
We can break it down really quick, I feel.
Here's my whole thing is we always measure a lot of greatness by championships, right? And a lot of times we use that in the NFL, and I think that that's a lot of BS anyways. But if you're going to use that in the NFL, here's my point. A quarterback doesn't even get to play 50% of the game because you got offense, defense, and special teams. So max he's at like 45% of the game because special teams is probably 10%. And then if you're like, okay, let's say that even that quarterback is responsible for 2/3 of all of the offense, considering there's 10 other starters besides him, you're at 30% of impact in the game. And we're measuring your Super Bowl rings as an individual statistic there, right? But then when you transition to the NBA right now, that's what we do. We essentially use that same thing. I think there's also a mixture of the eye test that comes in here as well. And you have to factor in what they were playing against, right? Otto Graham playing against a few teams and having 7 championships, or Bill Russell having 7 other teams in the NBA at the time. Okay, you factor out some of those championships. But when you look at basketball, you play both sides of offense and defense, and you play for in the playoffs. A superstar like LeBron is probably playing on average at least 40 minutes, if not in the conference finals or championship game. I know he's averaging even more than that. So you look at that, but that's at least 80 to 85% of the game that they are playing right there, that they are impacting, right? And so from there, it's like, okay, then I think that is, if you're going to take any sport and measure the championships out of baseball, hockey, soccer, football, baseball, or basketball. Basketball is the one where you've got the most influence over that. So when you look at LeBron James's career, I think that the most important thing in basketball is winning. And there's not as many other guys to share the glory with. And so when we measure efficiency, I hate this stupid new stat. What does efficiency even measure? What does it lead to? What is that stupid efficiency rating? I know it's a cool advanced analytic. What does it lead to? Because it clearly isn't leading to championships. Because if it was, James Harden and LeBron James would have won the last 15 championships. They really would have. So what is it translating to? Because Kobe Bryant led his team to 5 championships. Tim Duncan went to 5, won 5. Magic won 5. Kareem won 6. Jordan won 6. Shaq won 4. Larry Bird won 3. And so, in my opinion, you look at someone like LeBron, who's had Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, all these other superstars. In my opinion, if he only finishes with 3 rings, he has done less with more, and that is an underachievement for his career?
Well, efficiency means that it really just means how efficient you're shooting, as well as how are you impacting your team's success. Because
that's what I'm saying.
To me,
measuring it with?
LeBron's the best passer of all time, and he impacts winning more than
best passer of all time.
I think he's the best passer of all time.
So you think LeBron James impacts winning more than anyone else all time?
I do, because of how.
Why doesn't he have more championships when he's had better supporting cast?
See, but there's where I draw the line in the sand, because people will say, "Oh, well, Kobe has 5 championships, so clearly he impacts winning more." But that's such a stupid way to look at it, because
how?
Because I look at Kobe Bryant and I say, well, he had the most dominant player of all time. But see, this is when we start to have the 2-hour-long debate on who's had better players in different eras, and he won that because of that, and it's just a stupid thing to argue, because it can be a 5-hour argument that I've had with 50 people, and it doesn't change my mind, and it doesn't change their mind. They're going to think Kobe's better, I'm going to think LeBron's better, but I can tell you this.
But what if you hate both of them, like me?
What?
I have no bias here. I don't like Kobe Bryant. The 3 teams I root for are the Pacers, the freaking Suns, and the Mavericks. I watched him beat one of those freaking teams in the playoffs probably every single freaking year of my childhood. I don't like him, but I know what I saw. And I know what I know what this comes down to. And here's the thing. If Kobe didn't win championships with his second best player being Paul Gasol, okay, fair. And if Kobe didn't go off in some of those, series against the Suns and the Spurs on those championships runs with Shaq, and Shaq was just dominating the Spurs the whole time, which he didn't do, then I'd agree with you.
I look at players, and oftentimes what separates great players from good players is, it's obviously a lot of factors, but for me the one I look at is knowledge. And there's so much that goes into basketball that the naked eye just misses. And you can tell the great players know this. It's, okay, if I double, do my teammates on the flip side and help defenders understand to come over and help out on the weak side or from the weak side? Does my center know that if I miss a pick and roll coverage, he's going to come over, but the defender on the other side is going to come over and help in the paint? There's so much more to it than just, oh, he missed a coverage, or, oh, he didn't put a hand up when the guy shot. And people miss that. And I'm not saying Kobe doesn't do that, but I always look at versatility. And that 2010 through 2014, I've never seen a player fly around the court and do more to impact winning than LeBron James did in those 4 years. In LeBron's physical peak, I've never seen Kobe do the things LeBron does: chase down blocks, passing lanes, guarding the 1 through 5. And this is in no way, shape, or form taking anything away from Kobe. Kobe's a 9-time all-defensive player. He's clearly one of the best defenders ever. But I just think LeBron does more to impact winning. Does Kobe have more championships? Yes, he does. In my opinion, if we were to get a chart and say, look at each part of their games, I would say Kobe is a better free throw shooter and a better overall shooter than LeBron James. As far as everything else, I would give the nod to LeBron.
So here's the thing
Footwork?
Footwork?
Nah, you'd be crazy. You'd be crazy.
Here's the funny thing about LeBron is LeBron could bully anybody in the post whenever he wants to.
He can.
But and get to the basket whenever he wants to. But Kobe's footwork in the post is unmatched.
It's one of the best I've ever seen.
What about as a ball handler? Who's a better ball handler?
I think Kobe is a better ball handler.
Oh, LeBron's what?
Yeah,
absolutely. What?
I think
are you
Kobe's
kidding me?
moves are filthy.
Did Kobe ever operate in offense and bring the ball up court ever? That was Derek Fisher's job. Kobe never.
No, they isolated and he would go 1-on-1 or 2-on-1 and just dance around fools.
That's fine. That's playing in the post. That's not running an offense.
I'm talking about
he would do it
strict
everywhere.
ball handling skills.
Strict ball
I'm talking
ball handling
legs,
skills.
creating your own shot, being able to isolate, like playing ISO
You guys know
basketball.
Devin Booker does that in the post, and he's like he's the best 2-guard post player in the NBA. Does that make him a great ball handler?
No, but that makes him better than other people at that specific thing, like you just said.
For me, ball handling is not in the post. It's, hey, you're gonna set a pick and roll for me. I can dribble around him. I can go in and out.
I'm not saying he runs an offense.
Are you going to say Steph Curry has better dribbles than LeBron? He does.
He does.
And I think Kobe has better dribbles than LeBron.
Wow, that's crazy.
LeBron
I'm actually
uses-
the first person that I've ever heard say
That's
that.
crazy.
Dude,
Because
are you
LeBron
kidding
just
me?
uses his size.
What?
He just will use his size. You physically can't get the ball because he's bigger than you.
Dude, LeBron turns the ball. Dude, I've seen LeBron turn the ball over quite a bit. He averages a good number of turnovers.
That's
a game,
because
too.
he runs an offense. Are we gonna knock Chris Paul and Steve Nash for having high turnover rates? If you run an offense, you're gonna be turning the ball over more often than a guy that's not running an offense.
Dude, the ball was in Kobe's hands more than Derek Fisher's hands. You're crazy to think otherwise.
That's
just because he
actually
brings,
the ball was in
Dude,
the post player's hands more because he had Shaq, Andrew Bynum, and Pau Gasol.
I guarantee you Kobe shot more than all of those players. I bet you Kobe shot the ball more than any player he's ever played with on his team.
And to me, that's not affecting winning. To me,
Then why does he have 5 championships?
Then
I'm
I
not-
think LeBron should shoot more.
you see, it doesn't matter where we get, what corner we get this argument. You guys are always going to believe Kobe's
LeBron's
better.
got more turnovers per game.
Of course he does. He's been running an offense since his rookie year. Of course he has more turnovers.
We should look at turnovers per possession, not per game. That's not fair.
It's just total.
I know, but
I just... the better overall player is... I don't even think it's a question. It's LeBron James over Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant's a top 5 player of all time. In my opinion, LeBron's a better player. And Kobe has even said, I think the best player we've ever seen is LeBron James. He's even said it. So
I'm not. I mean, plenty of players have said that being modest and respectful. It's not unheard of.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady said it about Aaron Rodgers too, and Peyton Manning, and I don't think he believes it about either one of them.
But I just feel like I get where Troy's coming from because you look at what LeBron can do. He can do a lot of things that Kobe can't do.
Right.
But I also look at what Kobe can do and what LeBron can't do.
I'm just saying, if I'm a general manager and I get one of them at 18 years old, and I'm told that I'm going to have them until they're 35, 40. I'm taking Kobe.
I'm taking LeBron.
Now, this could change.
I'm taking LeBron.
Yeah, I'm taking
if
LeBron.
I don't know what the future says, I'm taking LeBron. Now, if you tell me he'll win you 5 rings in 19 years, 20 years, whatever it is.
No, I'm just saying
that's
when you
fine.
get every 4
years.
Well, that's what I'm
ring.
saying. You get to look back at if you're getting to look at what their resume is, and I get one of them going back in time, and I get one of them at 18. I'm going to take the one that won 5. Now, if LeBron wins another one and has 3 Finals MVPs with 3 different teams, obviously I know he has more than 3. He has 3 Finals MVPs now, but if he were to get another one, if he were to get 3 different ones with 3 different franchises, I think that's pretty good. But I also think that you got to knock LeBron a little bit because he's never had to go through a true rebuild after he left Cleveland the first time. Anytime his team has to rebuild, he just jumps ship to a new team.
why would you want to rebuild when you're a superstar? You want to win.
I'm just saying, but
You're
I also
loyal
but
to
I,
your team?
but I think
I
that
don't
I don't. Yeah,
He was loyal. He went back and won them a championship.
He only went back.
He spent 11 years
Bro,
with
he
Cleveland.
only went back because they had Kyrie Irving in the first overall pick that they could deal for Kevin Love. If they didn't have those pieces, do you think he goes back?
Nope.
He said before that he wanted to,
would
even when
want
he was
to,
in Miami.
But LeBron won't go somewhere unless he gets his way.
He wants to.
Who cares?
Because
I don't personally care. I
what
think
if-
it's harder to win on one team
Yes.
than it is if you can be like, oh, I can jump ship. They have this good player. They got a pick. We can trade that pick. We can build.
Okay.
I think
So
that's
so if we're knocking LeBron for this, are we not going to knock Kobe? Because Kobe wanted to jump ship, and he
wanted
publicly
to.
said it.
Yeah,
But that doesn't.
I agree, but he
didn't do it.
Because they went to him and
got
said,
Pau
"Hey, we're going
Gasol.
to get Pau." Actually, they were going to get Kevin Garnett, but
That didn't go through. No.
And I'm actually glad because Kevin Garnett's a nutcase.
I mean, anyway, clearly the Pau Gasol trade worked out, which is one of the biggest steals in NBA history.
It was.
Whatever.
But then they got. Let's be real. They got robbed later on with the Chris Paul thing. So I think that came back and kind of was like, Kwame Brown for Pau Gasol. Okay, we're blocking this Chris Paul trade.
Well, actually, they traded Marc Gasol too. They traded brother
You're
for
right.
brother. But
You're right.
I just want to say, if we're going to knock LeBron for, and I'm not disagreeing with you guys.
I think it knocks some of Peyton's championships. Absolutely. Here's my point. Okay, we were talking about first round buys earlier and how Tom Brady has 12. Peyton Manning has 8 of them. 4 of them came with his 4 years in Denver. You know why? He got to go pick one of the best situations out there with great receivers, a great O-line, and great defensive playmakers like Chris Harris Jr. and Von Miller.
Well, they're just stacked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He got to pick his situation.
No, I know it helps. It does help.
It certainly helps.
And I don't want to think like when I say I think Kobe's better. If you put it on paper, LeBron would be better. I'm not going to disagree with that. He does more. He can defend more players on the court. He's bigger, stronger. He can move people around. He still is so athletic. It's crazy. He's a freak of nature. Let's be realistic. You look at Kobe. He's really not a freak of nature. You see a lot of guys that are a lot of African Americans that are 6'6" and 200 pounds, 215. But you don't see that many walking around at 6'8". 275 strapped up to the gills, ready to dominate fools at 20 years old. You just don't see that very often. But I'm going off more of personally, and I think it's more or less because, Troy, you've been a LeBron fan his whole career. I've been a Kobe fan my whole career, and I grew up there. And so I had it on cable. I watched every game. Like, literally, if I was home and there's a Laker game on, the Laker game's on. I didn't play video games like that back then. It was like the game's on, I'm watching Kobe. So I watched so many times where I don't care if Kobe was 6 for 25. So many times where he won the game in the fourth quarter on a last second shot. And that's what I look for a lot. And I have seen LeBron do. I didn't give him as much credit as I should have. I wouldn't say he's not clutch anymore. I just don't think he really likes those moments. I don't think he likes to say, give me that fucking ball. I'm going to go score this shit. I don't give a fuck who's on my team. It's me. I'm going to score this shit. And is that a good thing for your team? Is that a bad thing? I don't know, because maybe LeBron says, well, statistically, Ray Allen has a better shot if we can design this play and draw this guy. If we can get him separation, he has a higher probability of making a shot than I do. Is that a good thing? I don't know. But I promise you, with Kobe, he said, give me the fucking ball. I'm shooting that shit.
Yes, and exactly. You nailed it on the head. They are also different players in that aspect. Kobe's mentality is, I want to shoot the ball, and I'm going to make it. LeBron was geared at a very early age in middle school by his coach, pass first.
Yeah.
Pass first. And that is how LeBron has carried himself all the way to year 17 in the NBA. Yeah. He's a pass first player. That's who LeBron is.
No,
he's not a score first player.
And I think
he makes his teammates better. If you were to I don't know this for sure, but I would almost be willing to bet any amount of money on this. That if you were to look statistically at who elevates the players around them more,
it's LeBron.
I guarantee you LeBron statistically elevates his players around him more. But
he does.
And I'm sure that Kobe probably takes away more. But I'm sure that if you were to, at the end of the day, Kobe's a winner, and that's what the game is about: is winning.
I just think it depends on
what do you play for?
LeBron James is a winner. You can't say he's not a winner. I mean, he's
had to join other winners.
But I also think you have there's no answer. I'm sorry, there's no answer. There's your opinion. There's my opinion. Yeah. There's Jake's opinion. There's no real answer until if he wins another ring, it's over. Like, in my opinion, I don't think you have to get 5. I just think he needs to get 4, personally.
I agree.
Now, is that unfair? Maybe. I don't know. That's just what my opinion is. But I feel like it all depends on what you like. Do you want to see someone that's very percentage-based and they're, like you said, a pass-first person? Or do you want to see someone with, like, just... I know you probably hate the killer mentality thing, but...
It's just... Like, I don't hate it. I just hate when people use that as, like, an advantage. That's a mentality. That doesn't make you better than someone.
No, it doesn't. But it can't. I feel like it can make you rise to the occasion when your mentality is, I'm gonna make this, like, no matter what. Not like, well, should I be taking this shot or should I be passing it? My coach wants me to shoot it, and then you're kind of. I don't think it really has hurt LeBron in that aspect necessarily, but I just remember. I'll be honest. I watched LeBron for those first 6 years or whatever in Cleveland, and there were times where he literally put his head down, drove to the basket, and he didn't give any care in the world who was the center on the other team. He was going to dunk over them and did not care.
And that was probably because he didn't have any good teammates.
And when he went to Miami and stuff, it just seemed like he almost sometimes cared too much about involving his teammates rather than just being like, give me this ball, I'm going to score right now. Because in my opinion, LeBron James can score at will.
But if we really want to go
overtime.
We got overtime in the playoffs.
They just kicked a field goal.
But if we really want to go into percentages, though, like LeBron has a better clutch percentage than Kobe. I don't want to go into that because that's a whole other hour podcast.
Well, I would probably agree with you on that, but then you would have to go into where was the shot taken? Was it 5 feet from the basket, or was it 18? Was there two guys on him? Was it a fadeaway jumper? Was it a layup?
More importantly than all that, because you have to first off, when you take statistics courses, you learn that you can lie about any number out there. So you've got to first interpret, what does clutch mean? Because I don't think clutch is a regular season game.
Well, a lot of the times they say I think clutch is a game-winning shot within 30 seconds or something like that.
But in the NBA, crunch time is considered the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter or overtime. See, that is considered crunch time.
That's way too
much.
That's what it's considered.
I also don't think regular, when you're talking of those caliber players, now if you're talking about your 20th best player in the league, yeah, game-winning shots clutch. When you're talking about Kobe and LeBron, I want to, regular season doesn't matter as much. You're talking playoffs that matter for them. And then when you're talking playoffs, it's like, okay, well, game one doesn't really fucking matter, especially in the first round. So if that's when it's happening, you got to throw those out of the whole equation. So I want to look at elimination games or in, Eastern Conference or Finals games and see what you do in the last 30 seconds to a minute then. That's my definition.
I've actually looked at it, and Kobe and LeBron, they're pretty close. Because I've looked at it in, I think it was last 30-second game-winning shots where there was 30 seconds on the clock. They drove down, and now they shot. Now the other team gets the ball back with 22 seconds, and they missed their last shot. That would be a game-winning shot for one of them.
Yeah.
They were pretty equal. I think the only edge Kobe had was one or two game-winning shots in the playoffs. But it's hard because, like I said, I dove into it more, and a lot of those shots on Kobe's end were a lot more difficult. So you remember them a lot more in your head because it was a bad shot. It was a bad shot, but he still made it. So whereas LeBron's, it's the way it was devised, it was a lot easier of a shot. So yeah, you remember it, but you're okay, it's like Jordan's shots. When you see Jordan
I really like in this segment how Alex is playing devil's advocate. He's doing a hell of a fucking job. Only seeing it both sides. He's not really siding with one. He's kind of well,
I told you my opinion. I personally would still take Kobe. That's just my personal opinion. But I feel even myself that I judged LeBron in a way that it's probably not fair because I was judging him as if I was watching Kobe. And I'm why the fuck aren't you shooting the ball right now? Why the fuck aren't you driving the ball right now? But in reality, he's a completely different player. He's not the same player. And he's not going to do what Kobe does because, honestly, his body doesn't really allow it. You can't be as smooth and silky and shift your body when you're 6'8", 270. It just doesn't work that way. I promise you, when I was 200 pounds, I could move my body a lot better than I can now that I'm 275.
Well, it also goes can we end this argument because this can literally go, and we've spent so much goddamn time in this segment. But
I'll be honest, I've actually enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to.
This is one of the better ones.
Can we all, if we have any more views on this, just say one last thing each, and that'll be it. And for this topic, and then we'll go to our very last topic. I know it's something Alex wanted to touch on real quick, but for me, it's a last-minute possession or a last-second possession. We all know what's happening with the Lakers when Kobe Bryant was on the team. Okay?
That's why it was so impressive, though, because even the other team knew.
But so this is what you have to look at as a fan, a spectator, whatever you want to be called. Do you want to see a guy take the last shot and trust that it's going to be defined by a jump shot, the game, or do you want to see a guy is going to make the right play every single time to get you ahead in the game? That's what it really comes down to in the clutch situation, in my opinion. For me, I love pass first players personally, and LeBron is the best passer.
I mean, if I'm an average coach or something, I'm taking the average player out there. I'm going to take the average player that plays like LeBron. But you have to factor in those intangibles, which is in the biggest moments, the biggest moments. I thought Kobe rose to the occasion. I don't think Kobe's ever lost a playoff series when they were favored, or I'm sorry, not a finals where they were favored. Have they?
They lost to the Pistons when they were favored.
Oh, they were favored that series?
Okay. Yeah, which in fairness, I feel like when I was looking at it that year, I had the Pistons, dude, and I'm a Lakers fan. That team's defense, I just felt like Shaq was going to have a real hard problem down there. Even though Ben Wallace is like 4 or 5 inches shorter, he's just a monster down there. And that team they were just filthy that year. And you could tell that was the time where Kobe and Shaq were really butting heads. And I just felt like the Pistons picked up on it, and they just knew.
Well, they weren't winning anymore. The season before, they didn't win the championship. Yeah. They were not.
Do we have any? Do you got? I said my final thought.
Okay,
do you guys
Jake,
have any final thoughts on this segment?
I've got one.
I'd say go ahead with yours.
I got a big one that Troy's really gonna like. Like I said, I still put Kobe over LeBron. If LeBron wins one more, I think he goes above Kobe and becomes probably, in my opinion, the second best player of all time. And I would say that. I know Troy already puts him there. If he wins 5, you could argue he's the best player of all time, bro. I know there's Michael, but it's not It's not LeBron's fault that Michael retired for a couple years. Why is that fair to say, oh, well, he retired? What if? I don't give a fuck about what if.
Well, and I think there's a lot to be said. And I think
he also could have tore his Achilles and ruined his career.
Well, and I think some of the things that help cement Peyton and Tom Brady as the 2 best quarterbacks of all time is what they did in their older years. Peyton with a noodle arm at that point that couldn't feel his nerves, and then Tom Brady in his 40s now are showing other ways to get the job done, which is greatness in of itself. And so if LeBron James shows you new ways to get it done past 35 with his ability to pass and get other players involved, and those are things that Kobe couldn't do because of his Achilles and his rotator cuff and his knee, all those injuries and stuff taking, and I think that those are factors that you have to consider.
Can I jump on this one more last thing? Remember when I just said that I used to watch LeBron on Cleveland and he could just get to the bucket at any time? A lot of the times you get banged up on those. So let's be realistic. He probably thought about the future and said, I want to play till I'm 40. I want to play with my son. So I'll get my 30. I'll get my 25, 30 points. I'll get my 10 rebounds. I'll get my 10 assists. But I'm not going to go to the basket like I used to and risk my body and have to stop playing at 34. Because that happens a lot where these guys, that's where Kobe's body fell apart. That's why he could not go anymore. Like when your Achilles goes out, you're done. You're done.
Well, and it's longevity. The reason LeBron's been able to do this in year 17 is when he was a teenager, he was already thinking about longevity at that point. Yeah. Instead of the average kid eating a bag of Cheetos, LeBron was eating an apple.
Well, that's because most people aren't being told from the time that they're like 14 years old that pick your sport you want to go pro in, and number 2, whichever sport you choose, be ready because you might be the greatest of all time in that.
Well, I don't think anyone was.
I have to give that to Kobe too, because he, from a young age, his dad was very professional too with that kind of stuff, and he was.
Joe Bryant, his dad played 8 years in the NBA.
Yeah, he always knew he was going to be something special. You can just tell when people have it in them, when they don't accept the critique from people saying, oh, well, you don't. He doesn't care. He's like, I'm going to do it. That's all it is. But I just, it's a good topic, but I do think it's interesting, man. I will agree with Phil on this. It's really cool that we have got to witness this era of sports, because sports is changing to a point now where there's not like a couple guys. There's like a lot of really talented guys.
The NBA, we've seen, like right now, I don't think, probably the past 5-7 years, we've never seen this much talent at once.
Well, never have.
I think the 5 best players I've ever seen play basketball in my lifetime, I was born in 1993, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Kevin Durant. Oh, I'm going to piss Troy off. Steph Curry.
Oh, my God.
In the last how many?
In my lifetime.
Dude, if you don't...
He's forgetting Tim Duncan, Shaquille O'Neal.
Dude, if you don't put Shaquille O'Neal in that list, that's insane.
I'm not going to put Tim Duncan because I think as fundamental as he was, like, I think like Alex said something the other night that I agree with. He benefited a lot from that system and a lot of the other superstars around him too, and having one of the best NBA coaches of all time. And you know what I mean? There wasn't anything sexy about his game. I'm just saying what from visually, like the best basketball players I've seen play. And then I'd probably put either Shaq or James Harden at 5.
Okay, well, we need to do a top 10 edition on that. And
I just pissed Troy off.
Speaking of Phil, Alex brought up Phil. Before we segue to the last topic, I know it's been a longer podcast, but it's because we've been away so long. Before we segue, did I hurt anyone's feelings in this heated conversation that we just had, or is everyone okay?
Well, the reason why I really don't give two shits about your LeBron opinion is because you're just a wannabe NBA analyst.
You know what?
So.
You're right. I shouldn't have even been on this podcast. So, Alex, that reason alone, take it away on the last segment.
I love you, Phil.
Me too.
So, I just wanted to really quick touch, and I know Jake would probably want to say something, but I'm not the biggest fan of the guy, but the Notorious is back. The UFC, Conor McGregor. We got 2 weeks, big guy. And he's back at 170, and he just interviewed the other day. He's focused. He wants to fight. He's ready to go, he says, and he looks good.
Yeah, I think he beats Cowboy. I mean, especially because Cowboy said he's going to stand and fight with him, so.
I think he knocks Cowboy out in the first round. Now, if Cowboy can drag him into deep waters into like 5 rounds, I mean, hey, he probably will win.
Yeah, we've seen Conor McGregor lose his conditioning before. But
yeah. So we'll see. But I just wanted to kind of just bring that up and let people know, we're waiting for that for sure. So
we've got the national champion. Are you done with UFC or no?
I mean, we got Tyson Fury, Wilder coming up too in boxing. We've got tons of stuff.
Oh, I mean, we've got John Jones and
Reyes.
Matt Reyes. We've got
Dominic Reyes.
What'd I say?
Matt.
Oh, did I? And then we got fucking Khabib fighting Tony Ferguson. I mean, we got a lot of good fights.
We got some fights coming up, man. So smash that like button for us. Give us a subscribe. We would really appreciate it. We're trying to make this thing grow. So every like and every subscription really helps, guys.
Yep. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere you get your podcasts, Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify. We are the Buffoons Sports Talk. We're all over the place. So like Alex said, give us a like. Subscribe. All of that support is appreciated.
All right. Till next time, guys. Thanks for listening.
Bullet, take it away.